So I was going to do a theory today, but there's a lot of news going around, a lot of misinformation about remakes and the potential for remakes. So I wanted to talk about those. Now, I've already talked about Pokemon Yellow and the potential remake that might be coming for that, and I've done a separate story about that, so I'll only hit on that lightly now. Pokemon Yellow has been rumored to be remade, but Pokemon Yellow, I believe, was released in Japan in 1997, and in the States in 1999. I'm not 100% sure on those numbers, but to say the least, okay, if you're going to release a remake for the honor of an anniversary, the odds are you should probably do the research and figure out which year exactly it's going to come out. People are trying to say that it's going to come out in 2015. So Pokemon wasn't even out in Japan in 1995, I believe. I believe it released in 1996. So why would it come out in 2015 here if it's the quote-unquote anniversary? You know, are you talking about 15-year anniversary? Because I believe it came out in 1999, and again, that wouldn't make 2015 a good release date. It might make 2014 a good release date, but I digress. So to figure out these trends, all you have to do is go back and look at release years, the time in between release years, and how things have been and gone throughout the release years. So the first 4 games, we have gotten 2 main entries into the series and a 3rd offshoot, with the exception of the original, which had green also. But green turned into blue for us over in the West, and the rest is history, which would mean that you just have to look at the going trend. Okay, so they stopped doing the 3rd remake remastery, adding in a little bit of new content, changing things around, and that's due in part to technology. So with Pokemon Yellow, the reason that they remade Pokemon Yellow was to tide people over until Gold and Silver, because they didn't have Gold and Silver ready and people wanted more Pokemon. It was a phenomenon at the time. And so they added a new feature in. They had the Pokewalker. Pikachu was taking the country and the world by storm. And so it was a good idea to add in some of these new features, new battle mechanics, a whole new line of sprites, and they got to access the color palettes a lot better in that version because the Game Boy Color had been out for quite some time. Okay, so the same thing kind of happened with Crystal. Okay, Gold and Silver came out, great, new features, all kinds of stuff, but Crystal comes out, and the only new features is just a slightly tweaked storyline where you get Suicune and Ho, and then you have to get the 2 running beast dog things, you know, Raikou and Entei, and then you have yourself a whole new line of sprites that move now. Now that was amazingly new back then, and that's technology. So Crystal came out specifically for Game Boy Color, and it has sprites that move quite a lot, and it's very good technology. And so you look back again, and you look at Emerald, and Emerald wasn't much different than Ruby and Sapphire on the technical points, other than combining the 2 together and making a storyline of it, really. And then you look back at Platinum, and again, it just changed things around, just slightly combined the 2 together and made an interesting storyline of it. And yes, that is all good and great, and I appreciate it, but they stopped doing that, and I feel the reason they stopped doing that is because it wasn't improving the game enough to make a hard sale of it. So you look at Black and White, and now you stand to make much more money by tweaking a new storyline, using the same exact assets, using the same exact music and things like that, just remixing and altering things here and there. And pretty much Black and White 2 is what I would consider to be a ROM hack. Okay, so yes, it was officially published by Nintendo, but they didn't use a new engine, they didn't develop a whole new line of sprites and things like that, and they just tweaked the storyline. And yes, despite it being, you know, better than the original, it still wasn't brand spanking new. So you understand that the development process there is significantly cheaper, and that's what they do in a lot of these games. They don't use the same exact stuff, but in this case they did. They used the same exact engine, sprites, things like that to make a second game, but they wanted to keep it in the Black and White universe, and now that makes them quite a bit of money. Now in between each one of these iterations of games, each new game, we get a remake, like Fire Red and Leaf Green came, and then we had Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and now we're looking at, it's been 2 game iterations before we're going to be getting a remake. So we have X and Y, and now we're waiting for the new game or a remake. So the next natural remake is going to be Diamond and Pearl, okay? So while that is very good speculation, I have no evidence to point at a time when it's going to come out. Just like I have no evidence to point at when Yellow's going to come out. I can say it'll come out on the anniversary of the Japanese release. I could say it'll come out on the anniversary of the American release, you know? And looking at the numbers and sales, the odds are whichever country had more sales would probably be when the anniversary comes out, because they want to capitalize on nostalgia and sell the most copies of the game. So it makes a lot of sense when you play the game like this, you know, and this is kind of game theory. No, not map pat. Game theory as in how you play an outcome or predict an outcome. And you can kind of play economically with this and say, well, based on money, they'll probably do this. But they've also released side games here and there, like Coliseum and the Pokemon trading card game. And you'll notice they haven't released the Pokemon games onto the 3DS eShop. They haven't released it onto the Virtual Console on the Wii U either, despite both systems being very capable of doing that. And you have to ask the question why they don't do that, even though they release games like Pokemon Pinball and the Pokemon trading card game. And so again, you can kind of see what they're doing. You can kind of predict it. You can say, oh, okay, so they're going to have this big event where they're going to release everything and they're going to make a lot more money than they would if they would just gradually release it. Who knows, honestly? That's a good prediction. That's a good question. And when you see all these articles and these BS videos talking about, oh, Pokemon Z is going to come out, what evidence do you have to support that? At what impact and what part did Pokemon Zygarde, however you say his name, you know, what part did he play in Pokemon X and Y? Because as far as I knew, there was a very passing mention of that Pokemon and then not much else. So if they didn't hype up that specific Pokemon like they did Giratina being the most violent Pokemon, then why in the world would it matter, honestly? You know, they do this a lot in these games. Also, it's like, yes, they hype up this third Pokemon supposed to be even stronger than the other 2 legendaries, and then they make a game out of it. But if you follow the previous track record, you can see that Pokemon Platinum and Pearl and Diamond were the last series to have the 3. And the odds are they would probably make an X and Y 2 before they would make a Pokemon Z, Zygrade. Now, Nintendo has made the copyright for that name, but I do also feel like they did that to just prevent people from using that name. And I think that's just all the evidence we have right now for that. Will there be a remake of Pokemon Yellow? Yes. Why? Because of nostalgia and money, and people love Pikachu. Despite what everyone might think, it's a great mascot. I mean, Pikachu's even the mascot of Ketchup in Japan and a soccer team. You gotta wrap your head around that. And will there be a remake of Generation 4, Pokemon Platinum, Pearl, and Diamond? Yes, probably not of Platinum, but of Pearl and Diamond. And once again, you will have to choose which version you want, and once again, you will have to catch them all. And the remake will feature all of the previous Pokemon, of course, and new features, new 3DS features, and things of that nature. And it will probably run on the engine of X and Y or a newer engine. So things we probably know are going to happen, you can speculate pretty easily, and it makes a lot of sense. So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you with these thoughts, okay? Whenever you see articles and they speculate and they talk, remember to identify a few things. Is there evidence for this statement? Where is the evidence? Are there links that you can personally look at to check the evidence? Is this person using clickbait tactics to get your views? And are these people just talking? Is that all that's happening? Because I get a lot of links and people telling me, you need to check out this story. There's going to be a big announcement coming. And, you know, it ends up just being a Pokemon trading card, a new trading card pack, or a booster pack. And while that's great and good, that's not a massive announcement that my fans would personally care about. No offense. I'm just saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to keep you guys from getting conned, swindled, and duped into believing some fake hype. I remember back in 2012, people were making fake Pokemon Yellow remake announcements, and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire announcements. Oh, they're gonna remake Ruby! Except that nobody had evidence for it, and nobody knew what they were going to be doing with Mega Evolutions, and nobody knew what they were going to be doing happening with Rayquaza and the post-game. Nobody knew anything. So all of those prediction videos were chalked up to just predicting that they were going to make a remake. It's pretty simple logic. Use your logic. Think, look smart, be smart, use your noggin. All of those smarty catch lines. Just don't get duped here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be stupid. Don't have your friends fool you. Just check the fact. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to close on that. I want to thank you for watching this video, and please like and share this with everyone you know who is trying to perpetrate some BS remake coming without any evidence, and those who think there is some BS remake coming without any evidence. And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching, and as always, happy gaming. And now, the important decision of joining the Maverick Rebellion. We are a tight group of individuals who rebel against stereotypes and greater evils that are commonly accepted. ISPs, children being conned out of games, sexism in video games. Enough is enough, and the Mavericks have had it. If you choose to subscribe, or stay subscribed, you are joining the fight against injustice by watching my numerous video topics. From net neutrality to publishers covering up botched releases, the Mavericks are always informed on the issues plaguing your gaming experience today. So don't be left out in the cold, and don't let those people keep you down. Join the Maverick Rebellion today and become a member of the community that will listen and engage with you. What are you waiting for? Just click subscribe and you'll be in good company. Mavericks unite!